Undercover owner orders ribs at his own barbecue joint, stops cold when two waitresses whisper his name. The baseball cap sat low on Ethan Cole's head, casting shadows across a face that once smiled from every wall inside Coal-Fire Smokehouse. Now, at 42, thinner by 30 pounds and carrying a weariness that medical bills and sleepless nights had carved into his bones, he was a stranger in his own kingdom. He pushed through the front door just after noon. The bell chimed, the same brass bell he'd installed 7 years ago during opening week. But everything else felt wrong. The air should have smelled like hickory smoke and caramelized pork. Instead, it smelled faintly chemical, like someone had tried to hide something with industrial cleaner. Just one? A teenage hostess barely looked up from her phone. Yeah. Near the back if you've got it. She grabbed a sticky menu and led him past tables that should have been packed for lunch rush. Only 6 tables had customers. 6. On a Wednesday. Ethan's stomach dropped. He'd been gone 4 months. 4 months of chemotherapy, of lying in hospital beds, of telling exactly nobody where he was or why. His business partner Marcus had promised to hold things down. Focus on getting better, Marcus had said on the phone. I've got this. Ethan slid into a booth near the service station, positioning himself where he could see everything. The hostess disappeared. Through the kitchen window, he glimpsed 2 cooks instead of the usual 5. One was Jorge, his head chef of 6 years. Jorge's shoulders sagged as he flipped ribs on a grill that used to require 3 people to manage during lunch. A waitress approached, young, blonde ponytail, name tag reading Becca. Her smile was professional but exhausted. What can I get you? The full rack. Dry rub. Coleslaw and beans. She scribbled it down. Anything to drink? Sweet tea. As she turned away, another waitress, older, dark curly hair, name tag, Nina, intercepted her near the drink station. Ethan pretended to scroll through his phone, but his ears sharpened. Did Marcus call you back? Nina's voice was urgent, barely above a whisper. Becca shook her head. Straight to voicemail. Again. Becca, it's been 3 days. He's not answering anyone. Nina glanced toward the kitchen. Jorge says payroll's late. Again. I know. If Ethan doesn't come back soon, we're done. Nina's voice cracked. Marcus told the suppliers he's selling the place. Some corporate chain. They're coming to tour next week. Ethan's hand froze on his phone. Ethan's not coming back, Becca said quietly. Marcus said he took the money and disappeared. That he never cared about this place the way we did. The words hit like a fist to the chest. I don't believe that. Nina's voice carried a desperate hope. Ethan built this place from nothing. He knew all our names. Our kids' names. He wouldn't just leave. Then where is he? Silence. Heavy and unanswerable. Becca finally sighed. I've got a guy at table 9. Get his tea? Nina nodded and moved to the drink station. Ethan forced himself to breathe normally, to keep his expression neutral, to not stand up and shout that he was right here, that he never abandoned anyone, that something was terribly, horribly wrong. Nina brought his tea with hands that trembled slightly. Your food'll be right out, sir. Thanks, he caught her eye. Slow day? Her professional mask slipped for just a second. Yeah. Wednesdays used to be our busy day. She said it like someone mourning a death. After she left, Ethan sat motionless, his mind racing. Marcus told them I took the money? That I abandoned them? Ethan had left Marcus in charge because they'd been friends for 15 years, business partners for 7. Marcus handled the books, the vendors, the logistics. Ethan handled the food, the staff, the soul of the place. It worked. Or so he'd thought. But now, payroll late, suppliers angry, staff terrified, and Marcus claiming Ethan had stolen money and vanished? The ribs arrived 20 minutes later. Becca set the plate down gently. Careful, it's hot. Ethan looked at the ribs. They were pale, underseasoned, the charm marks artificial looking. These weren't his ribs. These weren't even close. He took a bite anyway. The meat was dry, flavorless, wrong. This wasn't coal-fire quality. This was cheap, mass-produced garbage. "How is everything?" Becca asked, hovering nervously. Ethan wanted to tell her the truth. Instead, he said, "It's fine." Relief flooded her face. "Good. We've had some complaints lately. We're trying. I can tell." She smiled, small, grateful, and walked away. Ethan sat there, staring at the plate, his mind assembling pieces of a puzzle he didn't want to complete. Marcus had lied to the staff. Changed suppliers. Let quality collapse. And now he was selling the restaurant? The man Ethan had trusted with everything had turned Coal-Fire Smokehouse into a shell of itself, and everyone believed Ethan was the villain. He pulled out his phone and opened his banking app, something he hadn't checked in weeks, trusting Marcus to handle everything. He logged into the business account. His heart stopped. The balance showed $8,340. 4 months ago, when he'd left, there had been $240,000. Ethan's hands shook as he clicked through recent transactions. Withdrawals. Dozens of them. All labeled renovation costs, or equipment upgrades, or emergency repairs, all signed off by Marcus Hale, co-owner and CFO. Ethan looked up at the dining room, at the scuffed floors, the peeling paint, the flickering light fixture above the bar that had been broken when he left. No renovations. No upgrades. No repairs. Just theft. Nina passed by carrying a tray, and Ethan heard her mutter to Becca near the kitchen. "I'm working a double tomorrow. Rent's due and I'm still 200 short. I can spot you," Becca said. "You spotted me last month. Then I'll spot you again." They disappeared into the back. Ethan stood slowly, carefully, his legs unsteady beneath him. He left $40 on the table, double the bill, and walked toward the exit. At the door, he paused and looked back. Jorge was visible through the kitchen window, wiping sweat from his forehead with a towel. Becca was refilling ketchup bottles. Nina was smiling at a customer, pretending everything was fine. They were holding the place together with duct tape and hope. And somewhere, Marcus Hale was draining it dry. Ethan stepped outside into the bright afternoon sun. The sign above the door, Coal-Fire Smokehouse, where smoke meets soul, swayed gently in the breeze. He pulled out his phone and dialed a number he hadn't called in months. "Davidson Law Firm. This is Ethan Cole. I need to speak with Robert Davidson. Tell him it's urgent. Tell him it's about fraud." He hung up and stared at the restaurant. This wasn't over. Not even close. Ethan didn't leave. He circled around to the back alley where delivery trucks used to line up every morning. Now, the loading area sat empty except for overflowing dumpsters and a rusty pickup truck he didn't recognize. He positioned himself behind a stack of old pallets, hidden but with a clear view of the back entrance. If he wanted to understand what Marcus had done, he needed to see everything, not just what happened in the dining room, but what happened when no one was watching. The back door swung open 20 minutes later. Jorge emerged first, hauling a box of potatoes that looked like it weighed 50 pounds. His face was flushed, sweat staining his shirt. Behind him came another cook, a younger guy Ethan didn't recognize, struggling with a similar box. "Careful with that," Jorge grunted. "Last thing we need is you throwing your back out. We're already down 2 people. Why are we even doing this?" the young cook asked. "Isn't this what delivery guys are for?" Jorge set his box down with a heavy thud. "Marcus cut the delivery service 3 weeks ago. Said it was too expensive. Now we unload everything ourselves. That's insane. That's Marcus." They disappeared back inside. Ethan's jaw clenched. He'd always paid for full-service delivery. It was a basic operating cost, not a luxury. Making kitchen staff haul inventory was dangerous and stupid. The door opened again. This time it was Nina, carrying 2 bags of trash. She looked exhausted, her curly hair falling loose from its tie. As she tossed the bags into the dumpster, Becca appeared in the doorway. "Nina, wait." Nina turned. "What's up?" Becca glanced over her shoulder, then stepped outside and lowered her voice. Did you hear from Mike? The dishwasher? No. Why? He called me this morning. Becca's voice wavered. He's been working here 3 years, right? He's got 2 kids. His wife just had surgery. I know. What happened? He asked if I could spot him $40 for groceries. Just until Friday when payroll supposedly comes through. Becca's eyes were wet. $40. For groceries. And I had to tell him I barely have enough for my own rent. Nina's hand went to her mouth. Oh God. He's washing dishes for 8 hours a day and can't afford to feed his kids. Becca's voice broke. This place used to take care of people. Ethan made sure everyone could make a living. Now we're all drowning. Ethan felt like someone had reached into his chest and squeezed. Mike. He remembered Mike, quiet guy, always early, never complained. He'd hired him personally, had helped him get health insurance through the restaurant's group plan. Marcus told me yesterday that we're lucky to have jobs at all. Nina said bitterly. He said Ethan emptied the accounts and disappeared. That we should be grateful Marcus is keeping the doors open instead of just shutting down. Do you believe that? Nina was quiet for a long moment. I don't know what to believe anymore. But I know this place is dying, and Marcus is the only one here with any power to stop it. So either he's trying and failing, or he's lying. Yeah. Becca wiped her eyes. I heard him on the phone yesterday. He was in the office with the door cracked. He was talking to someone about maximizing the sale price and clearing out deadweight staff before the transfer. Ethan's blood went cold. Deadweight staff? Nina's voice rose. We're not deadweight. We're the only reason this place is still standing. I know. But that's how he sees us. Becca looked back toward the kitchen. Jorge's been cooking with a broken oven for 2 weeks because Marcus won't approve repairs. The AC in the dining room cuts out every afternoon. The meat supplier called me directly last week asking why invoices aren't being paid. What did you tell him? That I'm just a waitress. That he needs to talk to Marcus. Becca shook her head. But Marcus won't call him back. He won't call anyone back. It's like he wants the place to fail. Unless he's making it fail on purpose, Ethan thought. His mind raced through possibilities. If Marcus was planning to sell to a corporate chain, he'd want the sale price low, easier to negotiate, less scrutiny. And if the restaurant was struggling, bleeding staff, losing customers? That justified a rock-bottom price. Marcus could buy out Ethan's half for pennies, then flip it to the corporation for 10 times that amount. We need to stick together, Nina said firmly. Whatever happens, we don't abandon this place. Ethan built something real here. Even if he's gone, we owe it to each other to keep it alive as long as we can. Becca nodded. How much longer do you think we have? I don't know. A month? Maybe less if Marcus finds his buyer. They headed back inside, the door clanging shut behind them. Ethan remained frozen behind the pallets, his hands curled into fists. Every word he'd heard was another piece of evidence, another layer of betrayal. Marcus hadn't just stolen money, he'd sabotaged everything. Cut costs to the bone, let quality collapse, spread lies about Ethan abandoning them, and now he was preparing to sell the restaurant as a gutted shell. And the staff, his staff, people he'd hired and trained and cared about, were suffering because of it. Working without proper support, pooling their own money to survive, holding the place together out of sheer loyalty to a man they thought had abandoned them. Ethan pulled out his phone and opened his notes app. He started typing. Evidence needed. Bank withdrawals amounts, dates, descriptions. Supplier invoices unpaid, quality changes. Employee testimonies, payroll delays, unsafe conditions. Sale documents, buyer info, proposed terms. Marcus's communication records, anything proving intent. He stared at the list. This wasn't just about confronting Marcus anymore. This was about building a case so airtight that Marcus couldn't talk his way out, couldn't lawyer his way free, couldn't charm anyone into believing his lies. Ethan had been sick. He'd been weak. But he wasn't anymore. He stood up, brushed the dirt from his jeans, and walked back toward his car. Tomorrow, he'd start gathering evidence. And Marcus Hale would never see him coming. Ethan arrived at First National Bank at 8:50 a.m., 10 minutes before they opened. He'd shaved, put on a proper shirt, and left the baseball cap at home. Today, he wasn't hiding. The manager, Patricia Hollis, had handled Coalfire's business accounts since day one. She was a sharp woman in her 60s who'd once told Ethan that she could smell financial trouble the way he could smell burnt brisket, early and from a distance. She met him at the door with an expression that confirmed his worst fears. "Ethan," she unlocked the entrance and ushered him inside quickly, glancing around as if afraid someone might see. "When you called yesterday, I almost didn't believe it was really you. I've been away. Medical issues." Her face softened. "I'm sorry to hear that. Are you?" "I'm fine now." He wasn't, not really, but that wasn't why he was here. "Patricia, I need to see everything. Every transaction on the business account for the last 4 months. Every withdrawal, every transfer, every check Marcus signed." She led him to a private conference room and closed the door. "I have to be honest with you, Ethan. I tried calling you 6 weeks ago. Multiple times." His stomach dropped. "Why?" "Because what I was seeing didn't make sense." She opened her laptop and pulled up the account. Large withdrawals, all authorized by Marcus as co-signer. "When I couldn't reach you, I called the restaurant. Marcus told me you'd taken a leave of absence and given him full authority over business operations. He lied. I suspected as much." She turned the screen toward him. "Look at this." Ethan leaned forward. The screen showed a spreadsheet of transactions, highlighted in red. March 12th, withdrawal $18,000. Kitchen renovation, equipment. March 19th, withdrawal $22,000. Roof repairs, emergency. March 28th, withdrawal $15,000. HVAC system replacement. April 3rd, withdrawal $25,000. Dining room remodel, floors and paint. April 17th, withdrawal $30,000. Walk-in cooler upgrade. The list went on. 12 transactions total. Over 4 months, Marcus had withdrawn $231,000. Ethan's vision blurred. None of this exists. The kitchen equipment is falling apart. The roof leaks in the back corner. The HVAC barely works. There's been no remodel. "I know," Patricia said quietly. "I drove by your restaurant last week just to check. It looks exactly the same as it did 6 months ago. Maybe worse." "Where did the money go?" She clicked to another screen. "That's where it gets interesting. I did some digging, probably more than I should have, but I've known you 7 years, Ethan. I trust you." She pointed at the screen. 3 of the withdrawals were cashier's checks made out to companies that don't exist. I verified with the state business registry. They're shells. Marcus created fake companies. It looks that way. The rest were wire transfers to his personal account, then immediately moved somewhere else. I can't track where without a subpoena, but my guess? Offshore or cryptocurrency. Ethan sat back, his head spinning. This wasn't just theft. This was calculated, premeditated fraud. Marcus had spent months building a paper trail that looked legitimate on the surface while systematically draining the business dry. "There's more," Patricia said. She pulled up another document. 2 weeks ago, Marcus filed paperwork with the county clerk's office. He's trying to dissolve the partnership. He can't do that without my signature. He claimed you were unreachable and had abandoned your responsibilities as co-owner. He petitioned the court to grant him sole authority to make business decisions, including the right to sell. Ethan's hands gripped the edge of the table. "Did it go through?" "Not yet. There's a hearing scheduled for next Wednesday. If you don't show up, the judge will likely approve it. Once that happens, Marcus becomes the sole owner. He can sell Coalfire to whoever he wants, for whatever price he wants, and you won't see a penny. What about the staff? Their jobs?" Patricia's expression darkened. "If he sells to a corporate chain, they'll gut the place. Bring in their own management, their own systems. Your people will be replaced within a month. Ethan thought of Nina and Becca whispering in the alley. Jorge hauling boxes alone. Mike asking for grocery money. I need copies of everything, Ethan said. Every transaction, every document Marcus filed, every communication between him and the bank. Patricia nodded. I'll print it all. But Ethan, you need to understand, what Marcus did is criminal. You could press charges for embezzlement, fraud, forgery if he signed your name anywhere. But that takes time. Months, maybe years. And that hearing is in 5 days. I'll be at that hearing. You'll also need a lawyer. A good 1-inch. Already on it. Ethan stood. Can I ask you something off the record? Of course. Did Marcus ever seem nervous? Guilty? Did he ask questions about whether I'd been in contact with you? Patricia thought for a moment. Actually, yes. 3 weeks ago, he came in personally to make a withdrawal. He asked if you'd called. When I said no, he seemed relieved. Then he asked if anyone else had been asking questions about the account. Auditors, lawyers, anyone. I told him no. He's paranoid. He knows what he's doing is wrong. Or he's worried about getting caught. Patricia handed him a USB drive. Everything's on here. Transactions, documents, my notes. Use it carefully. Ethan pocketed the drive. Thank you, Patricia. You didn't have to do this. Yes, I did. Her voice was firm. That restaurant means something to this community. And what Marcus is doing, it's not just theft. It's betrayal. Of you, of your staff, of everyone who believed in what you built. Ethan shook her hand and left the bank. Outside, the morning sun was bright and warm, but he felt cold inside. He sat in his car and stared at the USB drive. $231,000. Gone. Stolen by the man he trusted most in the world. He thought about the last conversation he'd had with Marcus before leaving for treatment. They'd been in the office, going over quarterly numbers. Marcus had put a hand on his shoulder and said, "Focus on getting better. I'll take care of everything. That's what partners do. Partners." Ethan's phone buzzed. A text from his lawyer, Robert Davidson. Got your message. Come by my office at 2 p.m. Bring everything you have. Ethan texted back, I'll be there. He started the car but didn't drive away immediately. Instead, he pulled up the restaurant's social media page on his phone. The last post was from 2 months ago, a blurry photo of ribs with the caption, "Come taste the best barbecue in town." 12 comments. All negative. Quality has gone way downhill. What happened to this place? Used to be amazing. Waited 45 minutes for cold food. Never coming back. Marcus had destroyed everything. The food. The reputation. The trust. The money. But he'd made one critical mistake. He'd assumed Ethan was never coming back. Ethan put the car in drive and headed toward the lawyer's office. The war had begun. The address led Ethan to an industrial area on the edge of town where warehouses lined both sides of a cracked asphalt road. He found the one he was looking for, Sullivan's Premium Meats, EST 1987. He'd been buying from Tom Sullivan since opening day. Tom was old school, a third-generation butcher who believed that quality meat came from relationships, not spreadsheets. When Ethan had been a nobody with big dreams and an empty wallet, Tom had extended him credit and taught him which cuts made the difference between good barbecue and legendary barbecue. The warehouse door was open. Inside, men in white coats moved between hanging beef and stainless steel tables. The smell of raw meat and sawdust filled the air. "Help you?" A young guy with a clipboard approached. "I'm looking for Tom Sullivan." "Is he around?" "In the back." "Who's asking?" "Tell him Ethan Cole needs 5 minutes." The young guy's eyes widened. "Holy shit. You're..." He caught himself. "Yeah, okay. Wait here." 2 minutes later, Tom emerged from a freezer room, pulling off heavy gloves. He was in his 70s now, white-haired and barrel-chested, with hands that could break down a cow and the heart of someone who genuinely cared about his customers. When he saw Ethan, he stopped dead. Jesus Christ. I thought you were dead. Not yet. Tom crossed the distance in 3 strides and grabbed Ethan's shoulders, studying his face. You look like hell. What happened to you? Cancer. I'm in remission. Tom's expression softened. And you didn't tell anyone? I didn't want people making decisions based on pity. Ethan met his eyes. I need to know what happened with Coalfire. Why did you stop supplying us? Tom's jaw tightened. I didn't stop. Your partner fired me. Marcus? 2 months ago, he calls me up and says he's switching suppliers. Says my prices are too high, and he found someone cheaper. I told him cheaper meat means lower quality, and he said, and I'm quoting here, the customers won't know the difference. Tom shook his head in disgust. 30 years I've been doing this. Nobody talks to me like that. Ethan felt anger rising in his chest. What supplier did he switch to? Megamart Foods. They're a discount distributor that supplies budget chains and cafeterias. Their ribs come from factory farms, pumped full of water and preservatives to increase weight. It's garbage, Ethan. Complete garbage. That explains why the food tastes wrong. It gets worse. Tom walked toward his office, gesturing for Ethan to follow. Inside, he pulled out a filing cabinet and retrieved a folder. These are the invoices Marcus never paid. 6 weeks of deliveries. $18,000 total. Ethan flipped through the invoices. All marked overdue, in red stamps. He stopped paying? Ethan's voice was quiet, dangerous. He'd make excuses. Cash flow problems. The money's coming. Just give me another week. Then one day he calls and says, actually, we don't need your product anymore, just like that. 30 years of partnership ended with a phone call. Tom, I never authorized any of this. I didn't even know. I figured something was wrong when I couldn't reach you. I tried your cell, disconnected. I drove by the restaurant, your truck wasn't there. Marcus told me you'd retired and moved to Florida. Tom's expression hardened. He said you'd sold him your half of the business. Ethan's blood went cold. He told you that? Yeah. Said you wanted out, that you were done with the restaurant business. I didn't believe him. You loved that place, but what was I supposed to think? You vanished. I was in a hospital bed getting chemo pumped into my veins. Tom was quiet for a moment. Then, that son of a bitch. It's worse than you think. He's been embezzling money, tanking the business deliberately, and now he's trying to sell Coalfire to a corporate chain. Why would he tank it? Lower sale price. Less scrutiny. If the business looks like it's failing, he can justify selling it cheap. Then he probably gets a kickback from the buyers, or he's negotiated some kind of consulting deal on the back end. Ethan set the folder down. Tom, I need you to testify. Tell a lawyer exactly what you told me, the unpaid invoices, Marcus switching to cheap suppliers, him lying about me selling my half. You're taking him to court? I'm taking him to prison if I can manage it. Tom nodded slowly. I'll testify. Hell, I'll do it for free. That man disrespected you, disrespected your business, and disrespected 30 years of honest work I put into supplying quality meat. He paused. But Ethan, you need to know something else. What? Last week, a guy came by asking questions. Said he was a restaurant consultant doing due diligence for a potential buyer. He wanted to know about Coalfire's supply chain, quality history, any problems with the ownership. What did you tell him? I told him the truth. That under your management, Coalfire had the highest standards in the region. But that recently things had changed. He asked if I knew why. I said the owner had left, and the partner took over. Did he mention Marcus by name? Yeah. He asked specifically about Marcus Hale. Wanted to know if he was trustworthy, capable of running the operation long term. Tom's eyes narrowed. I told him Marcus was a snake who'd sell his grandmother if the price was right. Despite everything, Ethan almost smiled. What did he say? He thanked me and left. But here's the thing, he didn't seem surprised by my answer. It was like he was confirming something he already suspected. Maybe the buyers are smarter than Marcus thinks. Or maybe Marcus doesn't care. If he's already stolen $250,000, he might just be trying to squeeze out one last score before it all falls apart. Tom leaned against his desk. Ethan, can you save it? The restaurant? I'm going to try. What do you need from me? Your testimony. Your indices. And if you're willing, I want to bring you back as our supplier once this is over. Tom extended his hand. You've got all three. They shook on it. As Ethan walked back to his car, he called Robert Davidson. Robert, it's Ethan. Add Tom Sullivan to the witness list. And I need you to subpoena records from Megamart Foods. I want to know what kind of deal Marcus made with them. Will do. How's the evidence looking? Strong enough to bury him. Good. Because I just heard from Marcus's lawyer. He knows you're back in town. Ethan stopped walking. How? Probably someone at the bank or courthouse tipped him off. Either way, he knows. And Ethan? He's lawyering up heavy. This is going to get ugly. Let it get ugly, Ethan said. I'm ready. He hung up and looked at the warehouse behind him. 3 days ago, he'd been a ghost. Now he was building an army. Ethan returned to Coalfire Smokehouse at 6:30 on Friday evening wearing the same baseball cap and flannel shirt from his first visit. Friday nights used to require a 2-hour wait. Now, half the tables sat empty even during prime dinner hours. He took a different booth this time, closer to the bar where staff gathered between orders. Nina was working again, her third double shift this week according to the schedule he'd glimpsed on his way in. Becca was training a new girl who looked barely 18 and completely overwhelmed. Jorge was visible through the kitchen window, moving between stations like a man trying to do 3 jobs at once. Ethan ordered the brisket plate and waited. The food arrived 25 minutes later, brought by the new girl whose hands shook as she set down the plate. Sorry for the wait. We're short-staffed tonight. It's fine, Ethan said gently. What's your name? Melissa. How long have you been working here, Melissa? 3 days, she glanced nervously toward the kitchen. I'm still learning. You're doing great. She smiled, grateful and exhausted, and hurried away. Ethan looked at the brisket. It was dry, the smoke ring barely visible, the bark flaking off in pieces that suggested it had been sitting under a heat lamp too long. This wasn't just bad cooking. This was a kitchen running on fumes with a staff that had given up trying to maintain standards they couldn't achieve without proper support. He ate slowly, watching. Listening. Nina passed by carrying 4 plates balanced on her arms, a skill that took years to master. She delivered them to a family table with a smile that didn't reach her eyes, then returned to the service station where Becca was counting tips. $43, Becca said quietly. For 6 hours. That's it. Nina's voice cracked. It's Friday night. People aren't coming anymore. And the ones who do aren't happy. Becca gestured at a table near the window where an older couple was pushing food around their plates, clearly disappointed. Table 12 just asked me if we changed ownership. They said it doesn't taste like it used to. What did you tell them? That we're doing our best. Nina sat down heavily on a bar stool, her shoulders sagging. I can't keep doing this, Becca. I've got rent due Monday. My car needs an oil change I can't afford. And Mike texted me today asking if we've heard anything about payroll because his electricity might get shut off. I know. We're killing ourselves for a place that's already dead. The words hung in the air like smoke. Ethan set down his fork. His chest ached. These weren't just employees. They were people he'd celebrated birthdays with. People whose kids he'd seen grow up in photos taped to the break room wall. People who'd chosen to stay even when leaving would have been smarter. Becca glanced around, then leaned closer to Nina. I've been thinking about what you said. About Ethan. What about him? Do you really think he's coming back? Nina was quiet for a long moment. I want to believe he is. I want to believe he had a good reason for leaving and that he'll walk through that door and fix everything. Her voice dropped to a whisper. But it's been 4 months. And every day Marcus is here, things get worse. So maybe Ethan isn't coming back. Maybe Marcus was telling the truth. Don't say that. Why not? We have to face reality, Becca. If Ethan cared about this place, about us, he wouldn't have let it get this bad. The words hit Ethan like a physical blow. I don't believe that, Becca said firmly. I worked here when we first opened. I watched Ethan mop floors at 2 in the morning because he couldn't afford a cleaning crew. I watched him give Jorge a bonus out of his own pocket when Jorge's mom got sick. He drove Melissa, the old Melissa, not the new one, to the hospital when she went into labor because her husband was deployed overseas. Her voice shook with emotion. That's not a man who abandons people. Then where is he? I don't know. But something happened. Something bad. And until someone proves to me that Ethan chose to leave us, I'm going to keep showing up. I'm going to keep working. Because when he comes back, if he comes back, I want him to see that we didn't give up on his dream even when he couldn't be here to fight for it himself. Tears slid down Nina's cheeks. What if we're the only ones left when that happens? What if everyone else quits, and it's just us standing in an empty restaurant? Then it'll be us. Becca grabbed Nina's hand. We hold the line. Together. Nina nodded, wiping her face. Together. Ethan stood abruptly, his legs unsteady. He walked toward the restroom before either of them could see the tears in his own eyes. Inside, he locked the door and leaned against the sink, staring at his reflection. These people had sacrificed everything for him, for a man they thought had abandoned them. They were fighting a losing battle out of pure loyalty to a memory, to an idea of what coal-fire once represented. And Marcus had tried to destroy that. Had tried to convince them Ethan was the villain. Ethan pulled out his phone and texted Robert Davidson. I need the hearing moved up if possible. I can't wait until Wednesday. These people are suffering. The response came 30 seconds later. I'll file an emergency motion first thing Monday morning. Judge owes me a favor. Sit tight. Ethan splashed water on his face and returned to his table. He left a $100 bill tucked under his plate with a note written on a napkin. For Nina and Becca. You're not alone. A friend. He walked out before they could see him, before he could break down completely, before he could tear off the disguise and tell them everything. 2 more days. In 2 more days he'd reveal himself. In 2 more days he'd make Marcus pay for every lie, every dollar stolen, every moment of pain he'd caused. In 2 more days he'd save his restaurant. Or die trying. Ethan arrived at Coalfire at 9 a.m. Saturday morning, before the restaurant opened, when only Marcus would be there doing paperwork. Or whatever he pretended was paperwork while he bled the business dry. He didn't wear the disguise this time. He walked through the front door in jeans and his old Coalfire Smokehouse shirt, the original design from 7 years ago with the logo he'd sketched on a napkin. The dining room was empty, chairs still stacked on tables. Morning light filtered through dusty windows. The place smelled like stale grease and broken dreams. Marcus's office was in the back, past the kitchen. The door was half open. Ethan could hear him on the phone. Telling you, the sale is locked in. The lawyers just need to finalize the paperwork after the hearing. No, he's not going to show up. I made sure of that. Because he's gone, that's why. The man had cancer. For all I know, he's dead in some hospital bed somewhere. Marcus laughed. Actually laughed. Ethan's hands curled into fists. Exactly. Once I have sole ownership, we close the deal. You get your restaurant, I get my payout, and everyone walks away happy. Well, everyone who matters. Ethan pushed the door open. Marcus spun around in his chair, phone still pressed to his ear. When he saw Ethan standing in the doorway, all color drained from his face. I'll call you back. Marcus stammered into the phone and hung up. For 5 seconds neither man spoke. Marcus recovered first, his expression shifting from shock to anger. What the hell are you doing here? Funny. I was about to ask you the same question. Ethan stepped inside and closed the door behind him. This is my restaurant, Marcus. What are you doing here? Your restaurant? Marcus stood, his voice rising. Where have you been for 4 months? You disappeared. You abandoned this place, abandoned your responsibilities, abandoned everyone who depended on you. I had cancer. The words landed like a bomb. Marcus's mouth opened, then closed. What? Stage 3. I've been in treatment since February. Chemotherapy, radiation, surgery. Ethan's voice was cold, controlled. I didn't tell anyone because I didn't want pity. I trusted you to run things while I got better. I trusted you to take care of my staff, my restaurant, everything I built. Marcus's face twisted. You should have told me. Why? So you could start stealing sooner? I didn't steal anything. Ethan pulled the USB drive from his pocket and tossed it on the desk. $231,000. Withdrawn in 12 transactions over 4 months. Fake renovation costs. Shell companies. Wire transfers to your personal account. He leaned forward. I have bank records, Marcus. I have testimony from Tom Sullivan. I have statements from your own staff about unpaid wages and unsafe working conditions. Marcus's jaw clenched. You can't prove any of that. I already did. My lawyer filed everything with the court yesterday. The emergency hearing is Monday morning at 9 a.m. Ethan's eyes were hard. You're done. Marcus laughed, harsh and bitter. You think showing up with some bank statements makes you the hero? You left, Ethan. You got sick and you left, and I was the one who kept this place running. Running it into the ground, you mean? No. Saving it. Marcus's voice turned venomous. You want to know the truth? Coalfire was already failing before you got sick. You were so busy playing the nice guy, giving people bonuses you couldn't afford, buying premium ingredients that cut into profit margins, treating this place like a charity instead of a business. We were hemorrhaging money. That's a lie. Is it? Check the real books, Ethan. Not the sanitized version you looked at once a quarter. We were 3 months from bankruptcy when you left. Then why did the account have $240,000 in it? Marcus faltered. That was reserve funds. That you stole. That I saved. I made the hard decisions you were too weak to make. I cut costs, renegotiated supplier contracts, streamlined operations. You fired our quality supplier and replaced him with garbage. You stopped paying staff on time. You cut so many corners that customers stopped coming. Ethan's voice rose. And then you lied to everyone, told them I abandoned them, that I took the money and ran. You tried to turn my own people against me. Because you did abandon them. Marcus slammed his hand on the desk. You got sick and disappeared without a word. What was I supposed to tell them? The truth? That you might never come back? That we were all just waiting around hoping you'd survive? His face was red now, spittle flying. I did what I had to do to keep this business alive while you were lying in a hospital bed feeling sorry for yourself. You mean while you were planning to steal it? I earned it. Marcus's voice cracked. 7 years I worked beside you. 7 years of your vision, your recipes, your precious standards. Everyone loved Ethan Cole, the genius pitmaster. Nobody ever asked who balanced the books, who dealt with the lawyers, who kept the lights on while you played celebrity chef. So that's what this is about. Jealousy. It's about fairness. You got the glory. I did the work. And when you left, I saw an opportunity to finally build something for myself. By destroying what I built. By taking what should have been mine from the beginning. Ethan stared at him. This man he'd known for 15 years, trusted with everything, called his partner. All he saw now was a stranger wearing a familiar face. You're not just a thief, Marcus. You're a coward. Ethan's voice was quiet, deadly. You couldn't build something yourself, so you tried to tear down mine. But you failed. Because the people you tried to turn against me? They never stopped believing. They held this place together with their bare hands while you were busy looting it. Those people are nothing. Waitresses and dishwashers. Those people are everything. And they're going to be here long after you're gone. Marcus grabbed his jacket. You think you've won? I've got lawyers too, Ethan. Good ones. They'll tie you up in court for years. And even if you somehow get the restaurant back, It's worthless now. I made sure of that. The reputation is destroyed, the customers are gone, the debt is overwhelming. He smiled cruelly. You'll spend the rest of your life digging out of the hole I created. Get out. Gladly. Marcus headed for the door, then stopped and turned back. You should have stayed gone. Should have died in that hospital. Would have been easier for everyone. Ethan's fist connected with Marcus's jaw before he realized he'd moved. Marcus stumbled backward, hitting the wall. Blood trickled from his split lip. Monday morning, Ethan said quietly. Courthouse. 9 a.m. Don't be late. Marcus wiped his mouth, glared at Ethan with pure hatred, and left. Ethan stood alone in the office, his hand throbbing, his heart pounding. It was done. The confrontation he'd been building toward for 5 days. And now, only one thing remained. The truth. Sunday lunch service. Ethan had chosen this moment carefully. He arrived at 11:30, just as the small crowd was settling in. Maybe 40 people total, a fraction of what Sunday used to bring, but enough. He wore clean jeans, a button-down shirt, and no disguise. His hands still ached from yesterday's punch, knuckles bruised purple. He took a table near the center of the dining room and waited. Nina spotted him first. She was carrying menus to a family near the window when she glanced his direction. Her steps faltered. She stared at him, head tilting as if trying to place a face she recognized but couldn't name. Ethan gave her a small nod. Her eyes went wide. She dropped the menus. "Oh my God!" she whispered. Becca emerged from the kitchen carrying plates. "Nina, what's wrong?" She followed Nina's gaze and froze mid-step. The plates wobbled in her hands. That's not... Jorge appeared in the kitchen window, drawn by the commotion. When he saw Ethan, his mouth fell open. The spatula in his hand clattered to the floor. The dining room went quiet as staff members stopped moving, stopped breathing, all staring at the man who'd been gone for 4 months. Ethan stood slowly. "My name is Ethan Cole," he said clearly, his voice carrying across the silent room. "I'm the owner of Coalfire Smokehouse. The real owner. And I need to tell you all the truth." Nina's hand went to her mouth. Tears were already streaming down her face. A few customers exchanged confused glances. Others leaned forward, sensing drama. "4 months ago, I was diagnosed with stage 3 cancer." Ethan continued. "I left to receive treatment, chemotherapy, radiation, surgery. I didn't tell anyone because I didn't want to worry people, and I trusted my business partner, Marcus Hale, to run things while I fought to stay alive." Becca set down her plates on the nearest table, her hands shaking. "I was wrong to trust him." Ethan's voice hardened. "While I was gone, Marcus stole over $200,000 from this restaurant. He lied to all of you, told you I abandoned you, that I took money and disappeared. He cut your hours, delayed your paychecks, switched to cheap suppliers, and let this place fall apart. And he did it deliberately, to drive down the value so he could sell Coalfire to a corporate chain and pocket the profit." Gasps rippled through the room. The front door burst open. Marcus stormed in, his face twisted with rage. "This is private property. You're trespassing. I own this property." Ethan cut him off. "You want to call the police? Go ahead. I've got bank records, supplier statements, and employee testimonies that prove you're a thief and a liar." Marcus's eyes darted around the room, calculating. His lip was still swollen from yesterday's punch. "Don't listen to him. He's been gone for months. He has no idea what I've had to deal with, the sacrifices I made to keep this place running." "You made no sacrifices." Ethan pulled a folder from his jacket and held it up. "These are bank statements showing every fraudulent withdrawal you made. $231,000. Labeled as renovations that never happened." He gestured at the dining room. "Look around, Marcus. Does this place look renovated to you?" Marcus's face went red. "You can't prove. Tom Sullivan will testify that you fired him and switched to discount suppliers to cut costs." Ethan's voice rose. The bank manager will testify that you tried to dissolve our partnership without my knowledge. Your own staff will testify that you told them I abandoned them while I was fighting cancer. Nina stepped forward, her voice shaking with emotion. Is that true? You've been sick this whole time? Ethan met her eyes. Yes. I'm sorry I didn't tell you. I'm sorry I left you to deal with him alone. But you came back. Becca whispered. You came back. You think coming back fixes anything? Marcus's voice turned desperate and mean. You left these people with nothing. You were weak, you got sick, and you ran away. I had cancer. Ethan's shout echoed through the restaurant. I was in a hospital bed wondering if I'd live to see Christmas. And you used my illness, my absence, my trust, to steal from me. From them, he pointed at Nina and Becca. You made them work unpaid overtime. You told Mike the dishwasher that we couldn't afford to pay him on time while you were wiring money to offshore accounts. Mike appeared from the kitchen, his face pale. Is that true? Marcus said nothing. Answer him. Ethan demanded. It was business. Marcus finally muttered. Nothing personal. It was theft. Ethan said coldly. He turned to face the entire room, staff and customers alike. Marcus Hale is fired. Effective immediately. He is banned from this property. If he sets foot in here again, I will have him arrested. You can't do this. Marcus started forward. Jorge stepped out of the kitchen, still holding a butcher knife from prep work. He wasn't threatening, just present. Behind him, 2 other cooks appeared. I think you should leave, Jorge said quietly. Marcus looked around the room. Every face stared back at him with disgust, anger, or contempt. Even the customers looked ready to throw him out themselves. He grabbed his car keys from behind the bar. You'll regret this. My lawyers will bury you. You'll lose everything. I already lost everything, Ethan said. And I'm building it back. Without you. Marcus's jaw clenched. He looked like he wanted to say more, to fight, to argue. Instead, he turned and stormed out, slamming the door so hard the brass bell fell off its hook and clattered to the floor. Silence. Then Nina crossed the distance between them and threw her arms around Ethan. You came back. She sobbed into his shoulder. You actually came back. Becca joined them, then Jorge, then Mike, then the other cooks, the new waitress Melissa, even customers who'd been long-time regulars. They surrounded him in a mass of tears and relief and joy. I'm sorry, Ethan kept saying. I'm so sorry I left you. You're here now, Nina said. That's what matters. When they finally pulled back, Ethan wiped his eyes and looked at his staff, his family. Tomorrow morning, I go to court to finalize Marcus's removal and restore my full ownership. After that, we rebuild. I'm paying back every missed paycheck, every delayed wage, every dollar you're owed. We're bringing back Tom Sullivan's quality meat. We're hiring enough staff so nobody has to work doubles unless they want to. And, he looked at Nina and Becca specifically. You two are being promoted to co-managers. If you'll have the job. Both women burst into fresh tears and nodded. We're going to make Coalfire what it used to be, Ethan said. What it should have always been. A place where people care about each other. Where quality matters. Where everyone gets treated with dignity and respect. Jorge raised his fist. Coalfire! The others joined in. Coalfire! 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 Even the customers cheered. Ethan stood in the center of his restaurant, surrounded by people who'd fought for his dream when he couldn't, and felt something he hadn't felt in 4 months. Hope. The line stretched around the block at 10 a.m., 2 hours before the official reopening. Ethan stood inside Coalfire Smokehouse, watching through freshly cleaned windows as people gathered on the sidewalk, some holding the flyers Nina and Becca had distributed all week. Grand reopening, under original management, where smoke meets soul. The dining room gleamed. New floors, repaired lighting, fresh paint in the warm amber tones Ethan had originally envisioned. The brass bell, the one that had fallen during Marcus's exit, hung polished and secure above the door. But the real changes ran deeper. Boss, we're ready when you are. Jorge emerged from the kitchen wearing a new chef's coat with head chef embroidered across the chest. Behind him, a full crew of cooks moved with purpose and energy that had been missing for months. Ethan checked his watch. Let's do this. He unlocked the door. The crowd surged in, regulars who'd stopped coming, curious newcomers who'd heard the story, reporters from the local paper, even Tom Sullivan wearing a grin that split his weathered face. Nina and Becca, now co-managers wearing matching shirts that read, Coalfire Family, greeted guests with genuine warmth. Melissa, no longer overwhelmed, showed a couple to their table with newfound confidence. The kitchen roared to life. Tom Sullivan's premium ribs hit the smoker, the same quality that had built Coalfire's reputation. The smell of hickory and caramelized pork filled the air, drawing memories and appetite in equal measure. Ethan moved through the dining room, shaking hands, accepting hugs, listening to stories from staff and customers alike. An elderly woman grabbed his arm. I knew you wouldn't abandon us. I told everyone that Ethan Cole was too good a man. Thank you for believing, he said quietly. At noon, the place was packed. Every table full, a waiting list growing at the host stand. The energy felt electric, people laughing, staff moving with synchronized efficiency, plates of food that looked and tasted like Coalfire had never fallen. Ethan stepped behind the bar where a small podium waited. Nina handed him a microphone, her eyes shining. He tapped it twice. The room quieted. Thank you all for being here today. Ethan's voice carried across the dining room. A month ago, I walked into this restaurant as a stranger in my own place. What I found broke my heart. Good people suffering, quality destroyed, lies poisoning everything I'd built. The crowd listened intently. But I also found something else. I found loyalty that couldn't be bought or broken. I found staff who worked unpaid overtime because they believed in what this place represented. I found Nina and Becca pooling their own money to help coworkers buy groceries. I found Jorge holding the kitchen together with determination and hope. Nina wiped her eyes. Jorge nodded from the kitchen window. I was sick. I had cancer. I left because I thought I was protecting people from worry, from pity, from watching me struggle. Instead, I left them vulnerable to someone who saw their dedication as weakness to exploit. Ethan's voice hardened. Marcus Hale is facing criminal charges for embezzlement and fraud. The legal system will handle that. But today isn't about him. Today is about what we're building together. He pulled out a document and held it up. This is the new Coalfire Smokehouse Employee Agreement. Every person who works here, wait staff, kitchen, cleaning crew, everyone, now owns a share in this restaurant's profits. When we succeed, you succeed. When this place thrives, your families thrive. Gasps and murmurs rippled through the room. Staff members stared at him in disbelief. All unpaid wages have been paid back with interest. All delayed paychecks have been corrected. And going forward, there will be health insurance, retirement matching, and paid family leave. Ethan's eyes swept across his staff. You held this place together when I couldn't. You deserve to share in what you helped save. The room erupted in applause. Nina was openly crying. Becca grabbed her hand. Jorge raised his spatula in salute. When the noise died down, Ethan continued. 7 years ago, I opened this restaurant with a simple idea, that food made with care and respect could bring people together. That a business could be more than profit margins and quarterly reports. That treating people right mattered more than anything else. He looked around the packed dining room, at faces old and new, at staff who'd become family. I lost sight of that when I got sick. I thought I had to face it alone, be strong alone, fight alone. I was wrong. His voice grew thick with emotion. You taught me that strength isn't suffering in silence. It's trusting the people who care about you. It's building something together that's bigger than any one person. Tom Sullivan stood and started clapping. Others joined until the entire restaurant was on its feet. Ethan raised his glass of sweet tea. To Coalfire Smokehouse. To second chances. To the people who held the line when everything fell apart. He smiled, genuine, grateful, alive. This place isn't just mine. It never was. It's ours. To us, the crowd roared back. As the celebration continued, Ethan caught Nina's eye across the room. She mouthed 2 words, "Thank you." He shook his head and mouthed back, "Thank you." Outside, the line of waiting customers stretched even longer. Inside, smoke rose from the kitchen, carrying the smell of quality and care and comeback. The brass bell chimed constantly as new guests arrived, drawn by word of mouth, by rumor, by the simple truth that Coalfire Smokehouse was back. And this time, it was stronger than ever.